Before you start this job, you want to keep in mind that after you're done, you're going to need to go to a local garage and have the vehicle aligned to avoid premature tire wear. I'm going to remove the wheel, use a 19mm socket. Take the wheel off. I'm going to remove these two shock bolts, the two lower shock bolts, this one and the one on the back side as well. Just use a 13mm socket. I'm going to remove this bolt, use a 19mm wrench and a 19mm socket. Take the nut off first. Washer. I'm going to use a punch and a hammer to get this bolt out, but before I just want to make sure I have a tie-down strap or a ratchet strap nearby because I want to support the knuckle after I get this out. And just tap it out. You might be able to wiggle the upper control arm off, the upper ball joint. You could even give that a tap. Just like that. And now I use my tie-down strap. And that way there's not too much tension on the brake hose. You need to remove these bolts. There's one here, these two, this stud and nut, and then also this bolt down here near the battery. Now you can try to use a wrench and a ratchet wrench to remove this one. Let's try a ratchet wrench. Now the bolt is a little bit too long to come out without taking the battery out, so I'm just going to take the bracket off the battery, use a 13mm socket. Remove the bolt, remove the hold down, disconnect the battery, remove the negative terminal first, use a 8mm wrench. Now we can take off the positive side. Move this wire out of the way. And pull the battery out. Then you can get that bolt out completely. You definitely have to remove the battery. I'll use my 18mm socket and take these bolts out. Then I can support the spring assembly while I take the last one out. Pull that out. Now I'll just slide the shock down there. Slide this down. And just twist it. Be careful of the fender. And slide it up. We want to transfer over the upper control arm to the new part. Now when you take this off and install it, you want it in the same position that it was, or they want you to put the weight of the vehicle onto the car when you tighten these bolts up, but that's very difficult to access these bolts while the tire is on and stuff. So what you can do is take a ruler, we'll take a marker, and I'm just going to mark on the control arm where it is. And then when I transfer it over to the new one, I can line up those marks. I'm going to use an 18mm wrench on the nut side, 18mm socket. Take these bolts out. You can flip it over, do the same on this side. Take it, install it on the new control arm. Just get the bolt started. The bottom bolt started. Now we can line up those marks. Grab the ruler. It looks pretty good. It's good right there. Snug that up. Flip it over. Snug the other side up. Now we'll take the new strut assembly and slide it past the brake hose. And there's some pins. You can line those pins up top. And then get the bolt holes lined up down below. You might have to push down on the lower control arm. All right, looks good. Now we can get these bolts lined up. The stud is going to go right there. Get these all started. Before I get this back one in, I'm going to tighten these down a little bit. Not too tight. Just want to raise it up a little bit so that that'll line up. And it's almost lined up. There we go. It's lined up. Snug these all down a little bit. Now I'm going to tighten these bolts down to 83 foot-pounds. And you're going to have a hard time torquing that back one if you didn't take the battery out. That's good. Now we can install the battery. I'm going to install the battery hold down first. And just snug that down. That's good. Take the positive cable, line that up. And use the 8mm wrench and tighten this up. Wiggle the connector, make sure it's good. Looks good. Now we can put the negative terminal on. Just put this cover back over the positive side. And tighten that down. Good and snug, and it's tight. Now we'll just pull this hold down strap off of here. Line up the upper ball joint. Push down on the upper control arm. Get that to line up. You could use a pry bar if you need a little more leverage. Put the bolt in. Put the nut on. Now I'm going to torque this to 44 foot-pounds. All right, now I'm going to get the lower shock bolts lined up. Start on this side, get this one started, and line up the front bolt. If you have to twist this a little bit, you can put some pliers on both ends and try to twist it so the bolt holes line up a little better. And I'll tighten these up. Now I'm going to torque these bolts to 18 foot-pounds. Put the wheel back on, and the lug nuts. Now I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds, and I'm going to torque them in a star pattern so that it tightens the wheel down evenly. And we'll just go around again, double check.